25th of Tevet, Shir Klali, Parshas Vayera.
Right, so we're turning right to the beginning of the Parsha. This week's Parsha Vayera. This is chapter 12, Pasuk Beis. וידבר אלוקים אל משה ויאמר אלוהו אני השם וארוא אל אברהם אל יצחק ואל יעקב וכל שדוי ושמי השם לא נודעתי להם. So as an immediate follow to what we found in the last week's passage. And further, it's the actual chapter in the Chumash begins with the first pasuk of that chapter in the end of last week's parasha, where Moshe Rabbeinu had a kasha to the Eibishter after all the things that had happened in Mitzrayim to the Yidden, following the carrying out of his shlichus, his messengership from the Eibishter to the Yidden. Things got incomparably worse, at least Begoloi, that's what it looked like. And so Moshe Rabbeinu came with the kasha, as everybody's familiar, to the point that at the end of last week's Sedra, Moshe Rabbeinu, unable, as you might say, to withhold his feelings, he said to the Eibishter, Lama haro'esa lo'amase, why have you made evil to this people? V'lama zeh shlachtoni, why did you send me? U'miyaz bosi el pari l'daber b'shmecho, to talk in your name. Heira lo'amase, he's made everything much worse. And you didn't rescue the Yidden. That was Moshe Rabbeinu's famous challenge or kasha that he had after the beginning of his, or it's not only the beginning, after the whole carrying out of his shlichus to Pare. So, first of all, the first answer what Hashem gives him is that now you will see what I'm going to do, biyad chazocha. I'm going to send them out with a high hand, etc., etc. And already Rashi hinted that Moshe Rabbeinu had somewhat of a punishment. Already the Eibishter hinted to him that having asked such a kasha, you're not going to be zeichet. It's a very difficult thing, and there's a great deal to discuss about it, but it's not the point in this class. So right then, the Eibishter hinted to Moshe Rabbeinu that he wouldn't go in there, it's just he wouldn't go in Eretz Yisrael. Right back at the very beginning of the whole shlichus to Pare, he already hinted to Moshe Rabbeinu that you want, and on what basis was that? The fact that Moshe Rabbeinu asked a kashi. And when you think about it, it's a very human kasha, or what you might call a very understandable kasha that Moshe Rabbeinu should ask, having seen what would seem to be the opposite results of what he had rightfully expected from the shlichus that he carried out. And to the point that it bothered him so much that he couldn't hold himself back, as you might say. It pained Moshe Rabbeinu so much, the matzah, the Yidden, as a result of the change for the worse, they couldn't withhold his feelings, or you might say he's indignant at the situation, and he asked a kasha. I mean, it is in the form of a kasha. Lama haro'esa lo'amase. So we see that even like we described in last week in our shir, that Moshe Rabbeinu's perfection at a min ha'enushi, at a whole human species. Nonetheless, we see that he asked a kasha. Albeit it wasn't a kasha on his own, problem immediately, even though it involved his own COVID as well, because he said, "Miaz dibati b'shmecha," then things got worse. So that involves also. Aber the Ika was going to get to the matzah, but the Yidden, and the Eivsher said, "Azoi, you already got a kashias, then kaf the sorry aremas that you want to go into it." So that's a very difficult thing to picture in our minds. Why would there already begin the formulation of that whole punishment that was to await Moshe Rabbeinu further down the line? That's a big question in the great Meforshim, that if any way it was going to become later mentioned and later it was going to be paskined on him, then what's it being mentioned already here? Or if it's been mentioned here, what do you need to say that he was punished later? Yeah, later on, and with the whole arichas there is in the great Meforshim in Madrashim about that. Anyway, suffice it to say that that's where we finished. We finished where, in last week's parsha, where the Eivsher said you'll see exactly the opposite is going to happen. But at the same time, I hint to Moshe Rabbeinu that the kasha was very not acceptable, very not in place, as you might say, even though on our grounds, on what you might call human grounds, we can understand very well the mokim for the kasha. And then this week's parsha as a hemshah, because this is really Pasik Beis, that was Pasik Aleph. Pasik Beis says, "Vayidaber Elokim El Moshe." The word Elokim, we know, always indicates the union of the Gevura and judgment. In the Pnimis Inyanim, it indicates symptoms, it's called in Chassidut. El Moshe Vayemer Elov Ani Hashem. So immediately, the intelligent reader is aroused with the fact that that's like two opposites. It's like two extremities in one verse. Vayidaber Elokim indicates din, judgment, severity. B'pnimis advarim, as we mentioned, symptom. Havaya, the Shem Havaya, Yud K, Vov K, is well known that indicates the Eivsher b'midas rachamim. Everywhere in the Gemara and even in the Medrash Rabbah and most Medrashim, it's well known that the Stam Shem Havaya is the midas rachamim, mercy, and on the contrary, beyond the whole meaning of din, looking at Eden Dafki with the merciful, as you might say, with a merciful approach. And in Pnimis Ha'inyan is a very high madrega, the Shem, the very essential name of Hashem, Shem Ha'etzem, and Hashem which is beyond all limitations of the Bria, because we know that Bereshis, the beginning of the Bria was Bereshis, Bora Eli, Elikim, Isa Shamayim, Isa Oret. That the Etzem bringing about of the worlds was Halidei the Tzimtzum, the Gevura of the Shem Elohim, the Shem Elikim, the Shem Havaya is beyond that. How everything is batel mevutel completely, and there's only the knowledge of the existence and the matziyah of Hashem. Amamera is only rachamim, because mitad the amitius atzmas of the Eibishter, it's not really shaykh chas v'sholem the inyan von din. But once you get purely into the inyan von elikus, k'moshe hu b'pnimiyas, then it's only the inyan von toiv or rachamim. Kol Hayomin. So therefore, what's the union of Yidaber Elokim El Moshe Vayemer Elov Ani Havaya? L'cher Elokim is one union, and Ani Havaya is another. Verkehrt. Ani Havaya is like the almost what we might call the opposite, or the hafuch, or the union von Elokim. El Avram, El Yitzchak, El Yanki, Bokel Shaddai. And I appeared to the forefathers, and he mentions them in detail. And I appeared to them with my name, Kael Shin Daled Yud. Now, if we examine most of the places, or all the places where the Eivsher appeared to Avram, Yitzchak, and Yankiv, now the truth of the matter is, we do find that the Shem Havaya is also mentioned. It's not only the Shem Shin Dalet Yud, but we're going to see Rashi will maybe help us to put that right, that most of the promises that the Eibishter made to the others, or assurances he made in some connection with that name of the Eibishter, which means that you might call it the Almighty. I don't know how you might call him, Shah. There's many Pirushim in the word Shin Dalet Yud. What it means that I am able and I'm confident and I am enough for all that might be expected, or I'm enough for all that the creation would need. In other words, the Avish is saying that that's a name which was already made public in the time of the Oves, and it had in itself certain greatnesses, but it's got certain limitations as well. Shmi Havaya, however, my name, Yud Kei Vav Kei, Loi Neidati Lehem, I never really made it known to the Oves. Now, the word Loi Neidati is from the word to literally come into knowledge and come into a pneumius dikra yichud. In other words, it's not the word hoidati. What hoidati means, I announced, or I made public, or I made known. Noidati means I unified and became part of the inner knowledge and inner experience of the people hearing the message. So he said that I may have made my name Havaya public by the Oves, but I didn't make it pneumistic and known to them in the real way that I'm going to do it now. And then he says, and I also established my covenant with the Oves, to give them Eretz Yisrael, that was the land of their dwelling, but I promised them that that's where they would dwell. And actually, the Gorobo, they already dwelt in it, they already had a certain hold in Eretz Yisrael. So it comes along Rashi. Rashi says, what's the meaning of the Shem Elokim here? So Rashi says that Diber Itoi Mishpat Al Shehiksho Ledaber V'Leima Lomaharo Isa Lamazeh. So Rashi sees that the usage of the word, the Hashem Elokim, what we said before, is a Hashem of sharpness, Gevura, and Din, right at the beginning of the Avish's remarks. So Rashi says that's a continuation and a follow-on from what was said at the previous pasuk, at the end of last week's parasha, that since Moshe Rabbeinu was maksheh ledaber. So when you say that somebody asks a kasha or he's maksheh, then you mean he asks a difficult and a hard thing. In other words, it's indicatory of like sharpness, of throwing two things one against the other. That's an union of a service of a defiance of a sort. You know, like we see the kashiyas in the Gemara are like a challenge against the svara, which has already been said in a way of challenging it. And we even find the expression in the Gemara, Romi, that the certain man Doma threw, and the word Romi in the Gemara meaning to throw, that he threw one thing against the other. There's like a clash between the svaras. So therefore Rashi says that Moshe Rabbeinu was maksheh, that he caused a difficulty and a hardness and a throwing against one fact of svara against the other. And therefore the Eibishter began this statement to him in the form of a diburi toi mishpat, that the Eibishter also spoke in a heavy and what you might call paskening and judging mishpat. But mishpat indicates that there's like a dayon, and he's judging the whole situation, and he's paskening a difficult and what you might call a shvela zach, as they say, a hard and difficult thing. So therefore, says Rashi, why would he do that to Moshe Rabbeinu? Because Moshe Rabbeinu asked the kasha of Lama Haro Isa, and we pointed out at the beginning of the shiur, Moshe Rabbeinu asked the kasha. So here we see that Rashi says that right at the beginning of this parasha, a direct follow-on, that the Eibishter spoke, hardly and sharply, harshly at Moshe Rabbeinu as a result of what he said, Lama Hora Isa Lama Zeh. So that asks the shot, but he's already done that. In last week's parasha we saw, he already told Moshe Rabbeinu that he's not going to go Rachmanin and Flanin Teretzis. Well, that's a very, very difficult and harsh thing to hint to Moshe Rabbeinu right at the beginning of his work. It's really hard going. In Moshe Rabbeinu's beginning, the whole thing, the Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim didn't even start yet. Says to him, the Abram, I'm sorry, you're just not going to make it. And yet, nonetheless, we always expect that Moshe Rabbeinu is going to carry out all the tasks that he's been given, don't we? One of the things I expect is that people sit and they pay attention and they listen. If not now, later on when you get older and you get a balabas and the whole thing, it's much harder to sit and pay attention. Edifar says, Rashi, that this is a continuation of that Divrei Torah Mishpat that there was or the difficulty that the Abish spoke with Moshe Rabbeinu in the previous parasha. We have to assume that also indicates that this is a new Indian. We can't say it's exactly the same Indian. The Torah doesn't repeat itself. Rashi doesn't repeat himself either. And therefore we have to say that this, what we're now going to learn, I have a feeling there's going to be trouble. I have to know what we do about it. I have a feeling it's going to be trouble. Maybe you can deal with them. I don't know. It's a deliberate, unfortunately, it's a deliberate war. They come over here, I saw them over there. They let off one over there, and they'll probably let one off here for another 12. We don't take so much. I spoke with everybody concerned. I just have no limits for it. It's like talking into the wall. You just talk to this one and talk to that one. It all just gets lost. Anyway, so we have to say that Rashi is not just hinting back to what he said in the previous parasha, but he's hinting that there's something in this whole passage which we're now going to learn that is also a gevura and a mishpat, that Avish is, as it were, speaking sharply and harshly, even in this passage, to Moshe Rabbeinu. And it's like on another theme and another level. Vayema Elov Ani Hashem. So Rashi says, what does it mean? At the beginning you said you're Elikim, and now you say that you're Ani Hashem, the Shem Vayera. So Rashi, Neman L'Shalem Sachar Toiv L'Misalchim L'Fonai. So Rashi says, I'm very trusted, I'm very faithful to pay good reward to those who they go literally in front of me or together with me. That they go and they remain with me and they always walk in front of me, then I pay them a good reward. I didn't send you for nothing. I've sent you for a very important purpose, which is, in other words, you're not all that important. It could be that you're going to, as they say, you're going to cut the unfortunate end of the cake. It could be that you're not going to get everything that you had hoped for and everything we might have expected you to expect. However, you're being sent l'kayim dvorai. Your whole purpose is to keep what I promised to them, to the forefathers, and then he mentions who they are in the Pasuk, Avram, Yitzchak, Yankev, and I'm going to keep what I promised to them. And what did I put? So he said, V'roshen hazeh motzino shuhu nidrash b'kama mekayim. So then Rashi goes on to show that whenever we say in the Pasuk, and we mention a Eibishter as saying Ani Hashem, then that means that he's saying, I'm going to pay what I promised in the form of reward, and I'll also pay in the form of punishment what I said I might chas v'sholem pani. And he brings certain psukim to show that when the Avish says Ani Hashem, well, it doesn't seem to be all that obvious in many places why he should do that, then the purpose is to say that he's faithful to pay his rewards and to keep the threats of punishment which he may have made. And therefore Rashi brings three different psukim to indicate that whenever the Eibishter said Ani Hashem, then he meant to say I'm faithful to pay my rewards. And then he says V'eilo And immediately, he says, I appeared to the forefathers. Now, there are many great commentators and many great editors of Rashi, but they say that should be taken out. They say that's a mistake, that it shouldn't be written, Vayera el ha'oris, I appeared to the forefathers. Now you can guess why, because it's written in the Pasuk immediately after. Yeah, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. So the reader knows that the angel said, I appeared to whom? Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov. So I don't need to say that I appeared to the forefathers. Yeah, it's written in the Pasuk who I appeared to. It doesn't have to be written, I appeared to the forefathers. So therefore many people say that's Toas. It's a mistake, and they take it out. However, we'll see that the Rebbe doesn't go for that one, either to a lot of the great people. And they say that if all the generations people learned it, that's the way Rashi wrote it, and they said all sorts of beauty. What Rashi meant by that, we can't all of a sudden come along and just take it. Yeah, we can't just take it out. And I was once by the Rebbe, and the Rebbe said by the Rambam that there are certain texts in the Rambam, what they found later manuscripts, many years, right up close to our generation, where it looks as if there might have been slight mistakes in the copying over of the Rambam in the light of these new manuscripts. And if these were in effect mistakes, then that alters the pshat in what the Rambam said, and maybe fix it up one way or make it more complicated another way. And then we said, well, what about all the pirushim that have been said in the Rambam all generations on the basis of what it was printed? And there were pirushim for the very great early commentators of what that meant. So that I said, you can't possibly say that that happened, it was a mistake of the Tefillahs. We have to say that that's two different Giluim, Numaila in the Rambam. That he said that we have to say that's two different revelations of how to understand the Rambam, that were paskin from Himmel, that was paskin in heaven, that had to be written that way, and it was paskin that had to be written, had to be written that way, and that's why the great Meforshim said Pirushim in the old one. With regards to the Biurim on the Rambam, and the new manuscript says maybe it wasn't really written that way, so the Rebbe said, no, Cholila, it was really written that way in heaven, but there's such a text in the Rambam. Remember the same thing here, even though it's written in the Pasuk Vayera el ha'oris, I'm sorry, Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, they're the Ovis. Why does Rashi need to say Vayera el ha'oris when it's already written that they were the Ovis anyway with their names? So we'll see in a second that maybe there is a very deep purpose why Rashi wrote in Vayera el ha'oris, even though it looks obvious that that's what the Pirush of the Pasuk must be. So then Rashi says, Kel Shin David Yud, Hivtachtim Havtoches. Not that I never appeared to the Ovis at all in any other name, but when I promised them promises, then I mentioned the name Shin David Yud. Now if you look carefully, wherever the Eibushter promised anything to Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov, that's the name he mentioned. He said, Shmi Havai Eloinoi Daiti Lohem. Yeah, so then Rashi comes along and he says a most amazing thing. He said that it's not written here that I didn't inform them about Hashem Havaya, because as we mentioned before, he did. But he said, Loi noidati, I didn't make it known to them in Pnimiyat. And then he says, Rashi, Loi nikati lohem b'midas amitius shali. I wasn't recognized by them, and I didn't make myself known. The word hakora means that they were pnimia, even if I'm feeling something and knowing it. But pnimiyas, I didn't appear to them in pnimiyas in a way that they would know my emissar midas amitiyas. She'aleo ani nikra shmi havaya. When it comes to my emissar midah, my emissar, what you might call characteristic, then I'm called by the name Shem HaHavaya. And he said, I didn't reveal that to the others. He said, because behold, I promised them, v'lo kiyamti. He said, I promised I was going to do it, but l'poyo I didn't do it. What does that mean? So Rashi goes on and he said, well, I didn't lamaisa give them yet Eretz Yisrael. They're still never sitzen in Mitzrayim, and I didn't this and I didn't that, connected with the whole Indian of Yetzias Mitzrayim and Yerushas Eretz Roy with all the details and all the pratim was there. So he said, I promised, but I didn't do it. So the intelligent reader is immediately aroused with the obvious kasha. Well, the time didn't come yet, or it wasn't the right moment to do it. Because Avraham Avinu heard in the bris ben Abisorim, the famous bris that the Eibishter did with the cutting of the calves in half, and those. The Eibishter said, you're going to have to be, the whole Jewish people are going to be in Golas for 400 years. That's a heck of a lot of time. So the Koyel, it didn't come out 400 years, it came out 210. Or whatever, it's a long Golas. And then he said, Rach Achreze, V'yetzu, B'shfotim Gedolim, U'B'Ruchu Shkodil, they'll go out. So I mean, not 400 years has been reached, maybe 210, but that's not written in the Pasuk. I mean, that's only something that becomes clear after it begins happening. So l'chayra, everybody knows that something strange, the time didn't come yet, so why would they just say, I promised him, but I didn't keep? And that what I promised him wasn't my midah amitiyas. So the other kasha is what the Eibishter has, midas which are not emes midah. What on earth is that? What do you mean the Eibishter said, that's not my emes midah, and the Shem Havaya is the emes midah, and now I'm going to reveal to them the Shem Havaya, and then I'm going to keep all my promises. And on the contrary, the Shem Havaya indicates how I'm faithful to keep my promises. If you step out of the way, then I'll be faithful to give you a shmiz also. The healing from punishment that can also occur. Over upon him to keep what I said is going to be kept at the day what I'm revealing now, the evening of the Shem Havaya. What is he doing? What does it mean up to now? It hasn't been midah amitiyas. Is there any such thing by the Eibishter what's not midah amitiyas? Or that he promised he doesn't keep? It's not shayim. He promised, and then when the time comes, he'll keep. And that's what he's doing now. Rashi goes whole big miches, and he deals with Moshe Rabbeinu sharply, and then he talks with he says, look at the obeys, and then he do it, and do it. And then he says, now things are going to be really different, because I'm revealing the Shem Havaya, and that's midah hamitiyus shari. So we could say, by way of possibility, al derech atzidus, al derech was his mavur in Tanya. If you look very carefully in Tanya from Perek Kof and Kof Aleph, right the way through to about Perek Kof Hey in Tanya, and we find that what is the basis of the Hefer of Kedusha? What does it mean, the opposite of sanctity? What does it mean, God forbid, the opposite of Elokus? What does it mean, Avodah Zorah, even in Perikov Beis and further, the Alter Rebbe says, even Avodah Zorah. And the meaning for Avodah Zorah is the feeling that there's another entity apart from Hashem. That's the Alter Rebbe. And therefore the Alter Rebbe says that if you really consider and you feel you're really an entity and you're an existing entity apart from Hashem, and you've got your own ideas, even in a very delicate way, then chas v'sholem, you're falling into Avodah Zorah. You're falling into the hands of what you might call the Tzad Hashem, the Sitra Achra. And he writes over there very sharp things, the Alter Rebbe. Very amazing. And he says that every Aveda, even a delicate Aveda, why is the Eibishter so upset about an Aveda? When you do an Aveda, you're saying to the Eibishter, oh, you see, I got my way of doing things. And I'm also here, you see me? And I'm here that, you see, I'm even prepared different than what you said. Sometimes you're prepared different than what the Eibishter said. Come on in, clap. So any Aveda, says the Alter Rebbe, is like Avodah Zorah. In other words, that wherever there's a feeling at the self, that's the beginning. And there's a famous mimer from the Rebbe Rashab, where the Rebbe said, what was the problem with Adam Arishan? What is Adam Arishan? Well, I mean, how on earth? Somebody like Adam Arishan was just so unbelievably elevated. I mean, he was, it's brought down about him in the Gemara, in Masechta Sanhedrin, and other places where the Gemara says about Adam HaRishon, things that you could not imagine, unbelievable greatness, both in physical stature and in spiritual elevation in the highest. How come he could sin? I mean, was it a pshat that Adam HaRishon sinned? How was it pshat to say he was in Gan Eden? He was in Gilead. It was the whole time. How did that happen? How did he come? And he sinned. So the Rebbe Rashab says over there a mind-boggling thing. That he said it's brought down from the Baal Shem Tov that Adam HaRishon was so high and so elevated that he had this right to go up into the higher elements, even though his main place was down here, and he had the right to go up in the higher elements, and he had the right to move from one big section from Lamaila without, asking any special permission. He could go from one tremendous heichal in the Elam V'Salyanim into another one. And so once at the Baal Shem Tov, he was passing from one heichal to the idea, and he was experiencing this tremendous Gila Elikus, and he said to himself, oh, that was good. I thought the Baal Shem Tov, the Adam HaRishon said, that was good. Kafta v'ferach. I mean, I don't want to say Chashuv, maybe this thing won't hear from him. Say about him, about him Misnagdim, he says a pshat, and he says, that's good. that's good. He says a pshat in the Gemara. That's good. So, Adam HaRishon was passing from one heichel to the other, wasn't he? Yeah? Don't worry about this weather. Hashem will help. If you want to put it on, it's right. But don't worry, it'll be all right. That says Adam HaRishon passing from one heichel to the other, and he said, that was good. That was pretty good. I think everybody would say I did a very high yichud. So the Rebbe Rashab says that from that began the whole nefila which led to the Chetei Tzadat. And at Kerikam, there came along a young man once to me, and he said he wants to learn really avoided the Kemaim for Yutes Kislev. And it so happens that's in one of the SHK, the Rebbe Rashab, in connection with Yutes Kislev. So I said, that's a very good Maim, so I avoided the Kemaim, learn that. He came back to me a week later and he said, listen here, he said, Gafni, he said, you've ruined my life. So I said, what on earth? What did I do? What on earth? So, we just spoke a bit of Chassidus together. What on earth did I do to ruin your life? He said, you gave me to learn that Maimah. He said, it's written that if you just feel yourself, you're finished. I said, well, it's written in Tanya, what do you want? He said, yeah, but in Tanya you just learn it. You just, over here you really got you have it. So the Fisa, it follows that the slightest presentation of the self, and I'm really thinking, yes, I know, and therefore, yes. That is already the beginning of Chas v'Sholem, of a chait, and could be a serious chait. It could even be like the Chetei Tzadat. It could even be the Yinif and Aved. Sorry, Chas v'Sholem, Chas v'Chalim. And if Rashi comes along, Rashi says that this union of what I'm doing now in this week's parasha, he says, Ayema Alov Ani Havaya, and we'll get to the Shem Alakim part of it in a second. He said, you should know that I'm Ne'eman L'Shalem Sachar. I give good reward to those who are Mishalchim L'Fonai, that they go in front of me. Now, if you look in by Avraham Avinu, when he made the bris milah, look at it over there in the Torah. And the Eivsh said to him, you're going to get the mitzvah now, bris milah. And the Eivsh said to him, Ani kel Shaddai, take a shin daled yud. But he said, Hishalech lefonai v'heyei tamim. You must go in front of me, but you must be tomim. I told him, Tom Chait Mimim. So Avraham Avinu was the first Tom. He was the first member of Tom Chait Mimim. Yeah? And so the Eibster said to him, Hisalik l'fanai v'heyei tamim. So with all the Pirushim, you're going to get to the Bris Milah, that on the day of the Bris you become perfect. And all. What it means for Pashtus is that a person who's a Tomim, Rashi says, going to get to Yaakov Avinu. Rashi said that he was also called a Tomim. Yaakov Avinu was called, Erikot, Aish, Yeshev, Ish Tomim, Yeshev, Olim. He was a Tomim. Gam Yaakov Avinu was also a part of Tomim. So Rashi says over there that somebody who doesn't know how to dray, he's a Tomim. And yet later on we find that Yaakov, he knew how to dray. When he got involved with Lavan, that Yaakov wasn't a Batlin. He knew how to find a way with Lavan. And so what does Rashi say? Somebody who doesn't know how to dray, he's a Tomim? Because it depends on what basis you dray. In other words, if you dray in order to beat the Clippers at their own game, then that's Tmimus. But if you dray with the Eibster, doesn't it? And if we see that Yaakov, Avram, and Yitzchak, we can also find Pesukim which indicated, and that's what we're coming to now, that they were people, that they were Tomchei Tmimim. They were Tmimim. They were mentioned that they went with a Tmimus. It was a Tmimus. A person who doesn't ask kashiyas. He doesn't come and say, Lama, why, and Chavuas, and how did this occur, and how does that fit in, and how something else. He doesn't ask kashiyas. But that doesn't mean to say, Cholila, that he couldn't ask kashiyas. It doesn't mean that he's some sort of a tomim in all sort of simple sense of people say, he's a bit of a tomim, In other words, he doesn't know very much what you're talking to him about. Or they know very well. On the other hand, they're poil by zich, that there's no Matthias in the world apart from that. And whatever, and however, and in what circumstances, you have to take it all betmimas, with perfection and with absolute trust, and then you'll see, believe Sophic, as you go along, you'll see what was the purpose in the whole thing, even though Berega Hazeh, you mightn't see it. And if a mensch who's an emes Tomim is botil b'matzias, he doesn't have this little sort of a zich. I remember when Mendel, Oliver Scholem, when he came out of Russia, the first Tishrei that he was by the Rebbe, I was there. It was Toshin Kovo, running into Toshin Kovsai. And I remember Mendel told a few of the Hasidim over there that shortly after he came out, he wrote a letter to the Rebbe, then he wrote another letter to the Rebbe in Yiddish, and he started off the letter with the word Ich. In Yiddish that means I. He started with the word I. After I heard that Maisa, I never wrote to the Rebbe anymore, beginning with the word I, or even using the word. I always, juggled my sentences, never to use as much as I could the word I. Ani, So anyway, he started off with a sentence. In Yiddish, it's very natural to do that. You start Ich. So I think I'm doing this, or I've met up with this Indian. So you write the word Ich. So the Rebbe put a circle around the word Ich. He put an arrow down to the bottom to remember. He wrote, Hainu yochol liyesh hayetzer hora. That means to say that could be the yetzer hora. I mean, he wouldn't say to a person like Ramendel, that is your yetzer hora. But he said, you must be careful because it could possibly be. In other words, at the moment that you say, Ani, Ich, I, and you begin a sentence. In other words, that they were people, that they were very, very tremendously elevated and thinking people. Avraham Avinu, the Rambam says that he was the greatest thinker that's ever been until his time. There's never been anybody like that until Avraham Avinu. That's so decent. But when it came to the going with the Eibster, they went with absolute betochen, with absolute simplicity, on pashtus, even of a tomim, a complete and ganz mensch, what he doesn't ask shaylas. So therefore, says the Rashi says here that David began a whole new era here. He's introducing the Shem Havaya, which we'll see in a second. He's introducing Yetzias Mitzrayim. They're going out of Egypt altogether. They're going out of all limitations. So he begins there by Yedaber Hashem, but the word Yedaber also means to talk hard. Vayomer is brought down in many places that means to talk softly. Vayidaber means to talk sharp. Vayidaber Elikim El Moshe. And the Eibishter said with that, according to a Maimon from the Friedrich Rebbe, the famous Maimon from the Friedrich Rebbe, where he says that what the Eibishter meant by that was that when you begin any new era and you start into anything, then you must talk to yourself and you must let yourself be spoken to through the medium of the Shem Elokim. In other words, you have to make a very long, analysis of yourself, like Krishna Shavamito or somewhere. You've got to find the right time and the right place and the right opportunity, and you've got to make a really deep self-examination and a profound view into yourself. Where are you really holding? Elikim is Dinver Mishpat. If you do that, Elikim El Moshe, the Eibishter revealed first off there's got to be an approach Mitzad the Shem Elikim, Mitzad Mishpat and judgment. But who's being put into the judgment? You, not the other person, or not the situation, but yourself is being put into the state of judgment. Then Vayomer is already solved. Vayomer is not for Yedaber. Vayomer Elov Ani Havaya. Then everything changes. Then it becomes the Yini from Ani Havaya, and the Yini from Havaya Al Pi Medrash is Shem Ho or Rachamim. That's what Ananda Raman says. Oh, but what is it? Says the Eibishter, Ne'emon l'shalim sachar toiv l'misalchim lefonai. That I'm Ne'eman to pay a good reward to those that they go in front of me. That's exactly what's said to Avraham by the Milah, together with the word Tomim. And then immediately after that, the Eibishter says, V'era el ha'ovid. And so we just said, well, that's written in the pasuk that it was to the father. Why did Rashi say that? And then Rashi mentions this Inyan that the Shem Havaya also indicates that I'm going to keep what I promised, even though up to now it may not look as if it may not look as if I did. So we should do it. I mean, the Eibishter Mitzad Shindala Judah is not going to keep his promise. We should do it. Element. The Shem Havaya is a whole new union. And Shem Havaya means that literally there's no materials of the world. The world is batil, and all that there is only the Eibishter. And therefore, if you want to work out where does the world really fit in, then you have to first of all say it's not there, and then you find some way of putting it. Ultimately, you find some way of putting it back, but you put it back only in the way that it'll be absolutely a world according to the Eibishter. I don't want to have any other materials, and if it doesn't have that, then it doesn't have any material. And to the point that we can say, that like we mentioned last night about the Fabrengen, that that's the whole inning what the Alter Rebbe recognized and brought about into the recognition of all Yidden that the world is not really there. And once you know that the world's not really there, then you put it in its right place, then it does become there. But it becomes there the way Torah wants it to be, and it's only there because Torah says it's there. Or not that it really exists in any way mitzad Atzmai. In other words, that the Eibishter is doing us a tremendous favor. Mitzad Echad, he's not brought anything about, there's no world. But he said, oh yes, there is, I'll make you a world as long as it's only me, as long as it's only my will and my rots, and then it can hold out. And so then it becomes true both things. On the one hand, the world's not a Matthias, and yet on the other hand, it's a Matthias according to Torah. And therefore the Rebbe Marash said, you know the famous quip of the Rebbe Marash? Well, at least say you don't, or say you did. Yeah, the Rebbe Marash said, I think I also mentioned it last night. I think I already told you about it last night. You guys had a few last night, so you've been through an iron in the middle. You've sort of gone out, now we're trying to bring it back. I see certain people are covering themselves with their head covers, etc., etc. So anyway, So it follows if he's there. Maybe that should look after the headache. In the old days, in certain places, in certain Inyonim in Lubavitch, it was considered as an honor to have a headache after Bir Mashke. That's a sign that you hadn't slept it off completely. You took the Mashke and went for it. So you had a good headache. So anyway, there's I forgot what I was talking. Oh yeah. So the Rebbe Marash, he said that the world is mitzad echad. You have to say that the world is not really in existence. But on the other hand, the Torah says that it does have an existence. And that's what we're trying to point out. And he brought the raya from you remember I told you last night about the two sorcerers. There's one sorcerer that he just makes you think that certain things happen, but they didn't really happen. So he's not chayav at all. He's just stammer bluffer. Over somebody who makes sorcery that it looks, and it does really happen, that these things get up and move across and then replant themselves in another part of the field. The turnips get up out of the ground, they walk across and plant themselves in another part of the ground, and he actually caused that to happen through sorcery, then he's chayav misa. He's chayav misa al pitur. So the Rebbe Marash says, why the first guy? If the whole world is only a dream, the whole world's only a dream. If the whole world is only a dream, then anyway, what the second guy did, he made it get up and move across to the other part. That's a dream. It's maybe the Avish's dream, or it's a higher dream, but it's a dream. So what's the nafkamina between the first case and the second case? Elamai, we have to say that where he caused something in the world to actually move, then he's playing with Hashem's world, Al Pitura. And Al Pitura, that's a world. It's not really, but Al Pitura it is. And then it's got a real reality, even though it doesn't. But it's got a real reality according to Hashem. It's Hashem's inyan. It's like Hashem's hammer that he uses to carry out something. But it's it. And therefore, if you mess around with that world, then you got to face the consequences. And so that's what that second guy does. He messes around with Hashem's world. Aliyosid love, it's going to be even more of a Matthias. Not only just Stammer Matthias. Take with me out, Mama. So therefore, in order to take that, you've got to be a Tomim. You've got to be a person that you go with simplicity, and you are botil in your very Matthias and in your very essence to this tremendous light which is the Shema Havayir. And therefore, the Abishah says, the Ovis, they were people that they were teamistic people. And therefore, they never asked any shaylas. And that's what later on in the second shot, Rashi brings down. He brings the second shot after he finishes his old beer, then he brings from what he calls Rabbi Eliezer. He calls him, they heard from Rabbi Eliezer, whoever that exactly was. And he was one of Rashi's rabbis. Rashi brings another shot, and he brings over there that the Avish is still saying, oh, what a shame that the Avish are no longer here, it does, and he gives Moshe a tremendous musadrasha because he asked a shayla. So what is the pshat in it? Why is it so much? Because the fathers of the Jewish people, the Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov were not just Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. They were the fathers of the Jewish people. And the Gemara says in Masechta Brachos that there's only three fathers. The only people who are fathers of the Jewish people are Avraham, Yitzchak, and Yaakov. Not Moshe Rabbeinu is a father, not the rest of the Shvat, not the 12 Shvatim are fathers, not a Philo Yosef HaTzadik, what is very great and very unbelievable. He led the Jewish people. The fathers of the Jewish people are three people. So the Rashi hints at what does it mean, fathers? Who are the fathers of the Jewish people? Pasha to mention what they go with the Pshitas, despite their greatness. They go with an absolute tmimus, and they don't ask questions, they wait to see what is going to happen. And therefore, if you look over, Rashi over there, where Rashi says, what does it mean when the Abish said to Avraham Avinu should be a Tomim? Hayei Tomim. Mamish, like the Lubavitcher Rebbe talking to us. Saying you've got to be a Tomim and Tomchei. What does it mean, Hayei Tomim? Rashi says, don't look into the future and say what's going to be, what's going to Whatever comes, take it. And take it with a pashtas, with a pshitas. What's going to be with the future, you yourself will see in the future how it turned out for the best. And how it really is the best. And every minute of it is really hashgacha pratia. And if you ask a shaila, and you come up with a shaila, even though it might be a shaila, justifiably human shaila, and it might be a shaila which comes mitzad, it's brought in citizens of Moshe Rabbeinu didn't ask any questions, stam. He asked a question of Bichokma of Kedusha. You know, stam asked a question, Lama Haro Esau Lama said. But it was a shaila that leads into the question of how's the Eibishter running things. Then for that says the Eibishter, I'm sorry, you've stepped out of line, Moshe Rabbeinu. As a word, that's not the way, because the fathers of the Jewish people are not like that. And that's why Rashi brings it that Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov are fathers. They're not just Avraham, Yitzchak, Yaakov with all the greatness, and they're called our fathers. They are, in effect, the fathers. The whole way that a Yid grows out from his parents is he grows out in a way that he's atomic. So now you can see the unbelievable oimek behind this whole concept that the Rebbe Rashab, in the year Tov Reish Nun Tes, when he was holding the Sefer Torah by the Chakofis, the Rebbe Rashab said that he's going to call the yeshiva Tom Chet Mimim. It took him 2 years to work it out. What was he going to call the yeshiva? The Rebbe Rashab. And all of a sudden he said, now I know what the yeshiva is. The yeshiva is Tom Chet Mimim. And he was holding the Sefer Torah, and he said, Teimech Tamimim Hoshiono. You know, we say that, it's one of the things we say when we're holding the Sefer Torah in the last Hakofa, but that's the Rebbe's Hakofa. Yeah, the last Hakofa is the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach's Hakofa, and it's written, Teimech Tamimim Hoshiono. So the Rebbe Rashab said, that's the name of the yeshiva in Loshen Yochid, in Loshen Rabin, Tom Chet Mimim. In other words, that all the people in the yeshiva are Tmimim and they're Tom Chet Mimim. They support other Tmimim. They help other Tmimim. Apart from one of the Pirushim is that everybody's really part of Tom Chet Mimim, because all the Balabatim who give the money to help out, they're also part of the picture. They're Tom Chet Mimim. They're all part of the issue. In fact, that's what we can suggest. That Rashi says that I'm Neman L'Shalem Shachar, that those who they go in front of me and they act as sons of the Ovids are then there together with me. And he said, then I pay them the emissar Sachar. And he said, however, up to now I didn't. I made Havtachas, but I didn't actually keep it. So that presents a question. Ma Pirusha, what the Eibusha wouldn't have kept with Keil Shaddai, he wouldn't have kept the promise. Now that he's revealed, the Inif and Yud Kevav Kev, there's going to be the promise. You have to say that the Abiyah is like that, and that'll help us to understand this whole Shaila. What does he mean that now I'm going to pay a reward? What the Taich? I mean, Moshe Rabbeinu is looking for a reward. They are always looking for rewards. I mean, look, the reward is a side issue here. What does it mean from Socha? What does it mean from Socha take? So you can say that the pshat is like this. The mitzad inyan, Keil Shin Daled Yud, Keil Shin Daled Yud, it's put down in many places in Siddur that's got different madrigas in it, the truth is. But all of them indicate that the word Shin Daled Yud, the word Daled Yud means die. And what does die mean? Anam. In other words, there's up to a certain point. Beyond that, we don't go any further. In other words, that indicates finally, in whatever way we're going to analyze the whole situation, it indicates how the Eibishter came into the world, how he somehow or another relates to the world, that the world is a bit of a Matthias in lower levels, according to the Eibishter. Like we said before, Sof it does have a certain Matthias, even in the eyes of the Boyer himself. And so therefore that's a certain limited inyan. Like the Gemara brings down in Chagigah, what's the name? Shin Daled Yud, She'omar Le'ilomai die, that the world was spreading out. As you once said, it's like they was to press the button and it all began to flow, and then at a certain point he said, He shouted at it. He said, enough. As is up to Gemara. Well, from that we see that the Shin Daled Yud is the planning of a Hakbola, of a limitation in the Indian other world. So, albeit in that Gufa, even with that limitation, tremendous, unbelievable revelations, can move in many places and consider. But nonetheless, what it does do is it allows a certain error to the creation, and it gives what you might call teva, the functioning in the world according to the laws that were put into the creation. It gives them a certain value, because the Abishah said, up till now, and that's it. Keep it, there's a certain value and a certain finality in the limitations, in the actual limitations themselves. In that Gufa, it can be very high. The Rebbe Ashab in a Maimon, he says that the Indian from Kel Shaddai is not really the Indian of Teva per se, but that's the Shem Alikim. But he said the Kel Shaddai is what we call Reimamus HaTeva. You look at the Teva and you see all sorts of gewaldige things happening, even though they seem to happen in a natural way. We didn't go completely out of the Teva. And one of the dugmas is the Ness of Purim, for example. Yeah, that there was a lot of things connected over there with all sorts of links in the Teva, that Esther was called up, and that B'diuk had to call him Achashverosh or Russia. Yeah, B'diuk, she found favor in his eyes, and she became the queen, and so she had power, and she could do, and that led to this, and then the next thing, she got Haman into a bad way, as they say, with the king, to put it mildly, and the next thing, he was the one that was copying the Harikot. He was the one that was hanging on the tree with a whole Arifis Inyam. But there's nonetheless a connection of Inyonim that you can say, well, it all happened in a, in inverted commas, natural way. But whoever looks at it would say, wait a minute, that's natural. That's really natural. In other words, it's not natural, but in a way there's a certain holding in the natural, or that's called Reimamus HaTeva. Put down the mind from the Rebbe Rashab. And the Rebbe's got a whole thing about it. The Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, even from Reimamus HaTeva. And that's Shem Shin Daled Yud. That's it, the Shem Shin Daled Yud, or Kel Shin Daled Yud. So when the Abishah promised the Ovis, he promised them in that way, in that framework of the world. So we see, if you look, that Yaakov Avinu, an amazing thing, Yaakov Avinu was promised he didn't have what to be frightened of, the Abishah is going to be with you, and it's all going to be fine. Next thing is, Yaakov Avinu says to the Abishah, save me from Esau, because I'm afraid of him. I say, Yaakov Avinu said to the Abishah, yeah, Hachileni no miyad ochi miyad Esau ki yorei onechi Esau. Yaakov said to Abishah, I'm scared of Esau, but it was mine what the Abishah promised him. I'm just going to be with you, and you're going to go, and he's going to be. You come back to your father's house. If I speak to I was at Yaakov. Said, "Ever the Gemara, I said, Shaila." And we said the brachas, and the Rebbe brings it down in Tanya, in Perek Beis, in the famous letter that he wrote when he came back from Petersburg, that Yaakov Avinu said, "Ein Lefanav is all true. You're going to look after him. That Shema Yigrim Hachet. Maybe I might have done something that I'm not worthy of this whole thing, or maybe I will about to do something. I might sort of step out of line, and I might somehow or another ruin Shema Yigrim Hachet." As they bring the Alter Rebbe in Tanya, that's a quote in the Gemara. So we see Lefi Sekumtois that Yaakov Avinu, mitzad the limitations in which he found himself, and mitzad the way the whole creation is built around this Shin Daled Yud, what means Teva and high Teva, elevated Teva, and all sorts of wondrous things can and doubtless will happen, but since we're all limited and it's all maybe something might interfere, maybe something might get in the way, and therefore even Yaakov Avinu said maybe something might, since we're still working in that whole bracket, ulai kulei mashu lo ratzui, something not really, or lafida kavana might interfere. And that's because we're still in the certain limitations of Teva. Comes along here, the Abishnis forget it. He said, Ani Havai, it's now starting a whole new Tekufa. If you people only hear and listen and understand what is happening now, is Ani Havai. Even at the beginning I said Elohim. Well, that was only to shockle you out and get you to read Krishma Shalamita very profoundly and do a really deep cheshbon and nefesh, and then you're going to read a whole new thing, Havai. A whole new Indian is going to come about, that the world is going to be completely and utterly bottled Elikus. Not that there'll be a Matthias and it'll be elevated through Elikus, but it'll be absolutely bottled B'tachlis still. I mean, if you will tune into that Indian, and you'll take with you the Tmimus of the Ovid, because even though they didn't have that in India, they lived that way. And that is the question. What Rashi brings in here, the Ovis, that the greatness of the Ovis was that the Lepoyo Mamish, they lived as if the Gila was the Shem Havai. They lived absolutely without having any materials for themselves. And they did everything was possible that a human being could do before Matan Torah to be absolutely botter. Completely to the Eivishter. Now the Eivishter, I'm taking you out of Mitzrayim. It's not going to be any longer the work of the Nivra, the creative being. I'm going to give it to him. Ani Havai means there's now going to be a Gilu of Elikus where you can be bottled completely and utterly, and you'll just move around knowing that everything is me. Ani Havai, there's no Tevet anymore, not even Remus of Tevet. It's just going to be me and you as not having any entity. You won't have any entity, and that'll be the best possible thing for you. Like, how do you call it, the famous chassid that he met up with the famous, the chassid that he, to the Girosois. The chassid that he met up with the Snagid. And so he says to the Snagid, no, what's your aim? What have you been working at? Rapillo. No, it was Rapillo Paricha. So the Mishnah said, he said, the whole of my life I've been working, that it's over from mere epis. In Yiddish, the word epis means something, you know. Anybody here know Yiddish? If you say in Yiddish, epis, that means, something, a reckonable thing. So he said, I've been working the whole of my life, it's an expression in it. So very familiar, something should become of me. The beachcomber or something. He said, I would like something to become of me. Episode well from me. Something. So that's what this Mishnah said. So Rapillo said, I've been working all my life for Mizover and Ephes. And the difference is, it's very intelligent difference. In Yiddish, Ephes with a pay means something. And in Lashon Kodesh, Ephes with a fey means absolute naught. Absolute nothing. So Rapillo says, he said, I've been working my whole life. I'm from Mizover and Ephes. So anyway, so what it means, what it boils down to is, this is all the emphasis of Koftar Tevet, by the way. So what it all boils down to is that the Gilui of the Shem Havaya means that from now on there's no epes, with a pay, there's only epes. And I mean that the world is completely and utterly bottled, and that is the Hatzlocha, and that's the wondrous opportunity for the human being to become one thing absolutely with the Eivishter, and just to move around inside the Eivishter's way of doing things without really asking anything, without wanting to know anything, just doing what is the Kavanah, and just doing it B'Simcha B'Tuv Levo. And I mean, that's what the Eivishter said. Now it's beginning a whole new Seder, and therefore he said, Ne'eman l'shalem sachar, I'm faithful to pay the reward to those who mishalchim lefonai. In other words, that they're going in front of me. So what it means is, we suggest that what the Eivishter means is that I'm going to give everything, not only what will be necessary for you, but you're going to get a lot more. And l'maylam is you'll have afilu inyonim b'derech sachar. But you won't be looking for sachar. It won't be by you, any Indian that's your Indian. No, I will personally look after that you'll have everything, not only begashmius, baruchnius, v'oid l'maylam is ad blida. that there'll be everything you need as long as you're mishalchim lefonai. You'll be like the others, that they did it even without having this whole thing. And they were the fathers, and they became tmimim and betelim as much as they could, and therefore that's what it says. From that it follows that the Shem Havaya is the Avish's etzem name, and it's the name of the Atzmus Saint. As far as Atzmus is concerned, he can give Gashmis pink to see he can give you what you want, how you want it. As far as the very essence of Hashem is concerned, ain't shum mania cloud. And what does he ask of you? He asks of you, be just bottled. Don't be don't even make Moshe Rabbeinu's slight error of asking a shaila, even if it will be a kedushinik shaila in Seichel. Don't ask that type of shaila, because if you do, then you jump out of the bittul and you become a little bit of a Matthias, and you're not acting the way the fathers acted. This whole sachar, or the whole sachar, can't really reach you, because there's like something in between, which is like counting the pennies and saying, wait a minute, how much should I get from the Aves, how much is due, what's but I say, it'll just happen, believe, and that's Ne'aman L'Shalim Chachar. In other words, over there, maybe when it was Reimam Sateva, maybe they could something get in the way. And that's what Yaakov Avinu said, as long as we're in this way of running the show, maybe something might go off the mark, even mitzad me. And therefore he said, Shema Yigrim Ha Achei. Oh, but if we're talking about the Hanhogim mitzad the Shem Havaya, and the Evish says, Ani Ne'aman L'Shalim mitzad the mitis ha'atzmas, and mitzad the gilia, the atzmas, which is implied in the Indian of the Shem Havaya, then ain't kol maniyah. It's all bottled b'tachas ha'bitl, and the Avis is looking after that completely. Not your in. Your in is to do b'pshit is what you have to do. And but there will schar will come. But it'll be a schar niflo. L'loy ha'gbolet. It won't have any ha'gbolet in the cloud. Lo begashmius and moving u'poshet lo beruchni. Edifan. Lafisa. It comes to us. Why the Abishta said that up till now I was mavtir v'loi kiyamti, but now I'm going to be Mekayim. So Einochanami, the time didn't come yet, and Einochanami that the Indian of Shem Shindala Yud, it could be that eventually he would have kept his Havtocha. Oh, but now the Abishah said that I've revealed the Shem Havaya. Now it's not a question of when's it going to happen. It's not a question of is it going to happen or not. The whole Indian is that it's going to happen, but Pshita, and it's just going to take over everything in a oivet, that everything is so batil that nobody will even notice the sachar. The sachar will just be happening b'derem mamela. Oh, but that doesn't mean to say that the sachar won't be meaningful. It'll be tremendously meaningful, but the mekablim of the sachar will be so busy that won't be their inyan. Their inyan will be to carry out what the Eibishter said, and to do it b'simcha v'tu levov, and mamela to get out of Mitzrayim. And that's the pshat, to go out of all the medidas and all the hagbolas and all the limitations. Even the limitations of Elikut, as it is written in Chassidut. And that's the inyan from Shindal. It was a limitation extra, whatever way it may be. And here we're going out completely, and here the Avish says, it's a for sure thing that the Sachar is going to happen. The inyan from the Einish, Chas v'Shalom, will be that you just won't be in it, therefore you won't get it. And even though you might get it, you might realize what it's all about. Where's it really coming from? And it's brought down in Tanya that that's the Einish. Like the Rebbe says in Perek Yud Zayin, in Tanya, he brings that the Einish Hakim of the Rishoyim is that they get things without realizing that it's all from the Eibishter. V'zeh Oinsham, as they bring to the altar. Amamena Lafisa, it follows that we're entering a whole new era now. The Yetzias Mitzrayim is only b'koyach ha'atzmas. It's only b'koyach Yud Kei Vav Kei. Everything is batil. There's no limitations anymore. No inyan that can stand in the way. Nothing. If you go like the forefathers with that pshitas, They had it even before Matan Torah. Allah has come, you have to have it now. Then you go out and you carry with you everything you need. And therefore the Eibishter says, you're going to go out for a chush. When they went out of Egypt, they had gold and silver, and yet it's brought down in the Sikhs of the Rebbe, Melech HaMashiach, that was by them, like a Klippus Hashum. That wasn't the Ikar. It was there because it had to be there. Later on, you got to build a Mishkan, you got to have gold and silver, and you got to have all sorts of Kutazachim. But not that was the Ikar, not that really had any place by all those who received the Sachar. However, we see that here, a very amazing point, that the whole Inyan of Eretz Yisrael, that the Eibishter said I promised I would give them Eretz Yisrael, and that I didn't do yet, and that seems to be part of the Sachar. In other words, one of the Ika Inyan in the receiving of the Sachar is the Inyan of Eretz Yisrael. In other words, that the Fisa Kumte, that our Inyan with Eretz Yisrael is not only that we're saying to the Goyim, and not our Inyan. There was this kinus the other night, and to my great sorrow, the majority of Chabad didn't come to the kinus. I don't know what they consider is really their function as Tzidei Chabad. If you're not supposed to complain and do the Rebbe's will, when you get to these inyonim, then what's our purposes as Chassidim? But anyway, whatever. Yeah, those people who were there did say all sorts of important things about Eretz Yisrael. But the MC is, and this is what's the Ikka point, Eretz Yisrael is a sachar. It's a reward to the Jewish people, but it came mitzad ani havaya. It came mitzad the Inyan of bittul kol hamatziyas. The Yidden are absolutely bottled. They have no place for themselves anymore. They're only bottled to the Eibishter, and it follows a part of the whole pictures that the Eibishter is going to give them Eretz Yisrael. Now what do you need Eretz Yisrael for? Yeah, because Eretz Yisrael happens to be the Mokim HaKodesh. That Rashi already said it earlier, that's the place of Meyuad B'Gilui Hashem. And Mamela, you didn't need to go to Eretz Yisrael in order to carry out all the mitzvahs. And there's a famous Ramban, a very famous Ramban, where he said that the whole Inyan of Eretz Yisrael was given for the sake of Kiyum HaMitzvahs. There's no Inyan in Eretz Yisrael apart from that, and that's why the Yidden can't really keep the mitzvahs in any other country. And he said the only mitzvahs you can keep in other countries are things like tefillin or mezuzah, things which are just you're mechuyev to do. The fact that you have a body or you have a house, you got to put on tefillin. It's not really shy to where you are, but the majority of the mitzvahs are totally in Eretz Yisrael. And therefore the Sefer Chinuch says that the Yidden in Golas can only keep a small number of the mitzvahs. And the Ramban says because all the mitzvahs were given only for Eretz Yisrael. It's a famous mitzvah. According to the Ramban, we're not telling these people that Eretz Yisrael belongs to us. We want the country, we want Eretz Yisrael, we want a beautiful place. We're fighters, and we're going to give it to them, and we'll hire all these Arabah, and I face them what we'll do, all the rest of it. Neither. Eretz Yisrael belongs to Eden because that's the sachar for the Gilui and the Kabbalah on the part of the Eden of receiving Ani Havaya. That everything is bottled and anything which is given as a reward is only Mitzad Atzmusa is bottled, Yud K, Vav K, and that's for the purpose of assisting and bringing about for the Gilui of the Shem Havaya. That's why the Sachar is there. That's what it's all about. The whole Inyan of the Inyan of Eretz Yisrael is a Toisefis in Ani Havaya, in the Gilui of the Shem Havaya, Aditei the Mishra. And after that, the Beis HaMikdash, which Rashi says that's the Beis Elomim. That's the everlasting place where both the Eibishter and the Yidden are going to dwell. That's what Rashi hints at, that the whole Inyan of Sachar changes its whole nature here. It becomes part of the system of Bittul to the Shem Havaya, and then a Ne'eman L'Shalim Schar. It's going to be B'Lav. It doesn't matter what. There's not going to be any possible hold-ups like it could be Mitzad Shindalim. Even Chait. You might say, wait a minute, not even Chait's can interfere. So some people go that far. I saw in some great Meforshim that they want to time it at once. The Hebrew said this, even if somebody would not be beside, he would still nonetheless, the Hebrew is still going to give everything. Not a pshat is yoter mok mizeh. That once you understand what it means, ani havaya, and you thought yourself over carefully in Vaydav Elikim, and you put yourself on the proper stand of looking critically at yourself, and you made an self-examination, and you come to the bittul of Tom Chet Mimim, and you come to the bittul of ani havaya, and it's not shy chet in the normal way. And the whole meaning of chet, it could be one else, it's not shy. Rashi says that Ad Kan Rachiv Tahti. This built this Soviet that eventually it would have been kept. But now that I've promised and I'm going to do it without a new system, it's going to be without the Yinim for Shem Havaya, then Buvadai it's going to be Mukuyam. It'll be Mukuyam B'Shleimas, both Mitzad the Noisen and Mitzad the Mekabel. And Rashi says in the second shot that we have to say, we don't have people like the Ovid. It's Ad Kedikach that he took a shot at Moshe Rabbeinu, Ad Kedikach. Because the Eibsher was so anxious that even though that kasha was a kasha amitius, mitzad regish, even mitzad kedusha, the Eibsher didn't want that the kasha should remain anymore, even if they're justified. Even if they come from Moshe Rabbeinu. That's the situation in which we're facing. And that's the whole purpose of this Kenneth the other night. That the announcement that the Eretz Yisrael belongs to the Yidden is mitzad this holy, not mitzad anything else. And that's what we've got to make clear to people. The Goyim have absolutely no place in Eretz Yisrael because it's Heipur Kol Ha'inyan Hazeh. This is an Inyan mitzad the Eibishter and the Yidden to build the everlasting house for the Eibishter. Once that's been done, it'll be good for the Goyim. Belishum Sovim. The Rebbe's got a whole secret where the Rebbe says that the Goyim, nobody's interested in wiping out the Goyim, Yosit Lochmei. It's those that will be wiped out are those that they wipe themselves out. Beloved, they took away their whole ability to exist. Because all they did was destroy the Eibishter's world. Of a Stam Goyim, ain't Goyim between Yidden with Goyim. On the contrary, they'll have their right place. Mitzad the SHK, out the Beis Hamikdash, they'll have their right place. And everything will be Beseder al Tzad HaYesh HaTev, and Mitzad HaYesh HaSholem. It makes sense now why the Rashi uses the word Sachar. Because afterwards the word Sachar means reward. Somehow that's like a nice interdealing with the Eibishter. We did, we got it, we put in our very high pockets, we got a beautiful reward. So therefore there's a very famous Ramban here, right in these, just to mention it very briefly before the end of the Shia, just to fit things into a bit of proportion. The Ramban says an amazing thing. And the Ramban says, it has to be fixed up with other Mishnayos and with certain statements that are made in the Gemara, etc., etc. It's a complex matter, how to fit it in with certain other inyan. But we can't cover everything. The Ramban says that if you serve the Eibishter the way you're supposed to, and you give yourself over to Ratzon Hashem, and in Pasha B'Chukosa at the end of Vayikra, he said if you're a Chassid, they say that. The Ramban says if you're a Chassid. But of course he doesn't mean if you're a Chabadski. I mean he probably does. Mitzad Ruach HaKodesh he meant if you're a Chabadski. But what he says is if you're a Chassid, so what does it mean a Chassid? He said a Chassid is a perfect person that he just makabel of himself, everything. Very similar to what we were talking about. That is up to the Rambam. And he said, if you're a Chassid and you devote yourself to the Eibishter mitzad this whole Seder we just kind of Yud K, Vav K, then he said the Eibishter gives you everything you need in Gashmiyas, all the things you could possibly need, but he gives them in Oifen from Lamayla Miateva. And everything that happens with you is Nisim. Very famous Ramban. And ever the Ramban says that what out of doing certain mitzvahs you get promises, and those promises the Eibishter keeps for sure. He said, Naaman Lekayim Eshat Techosi, what you get is Nisim Gedolim, as they write the Ramban. And he says why? He said because this physical world He said, it is a creation that nobody can possibly make sense of. It is, yeah, it's not in existence, but it is because the Torah wants it, and the Eibishter wants it. But that the Eibishter should give the neshama in the world to come, the Eibishter should give the neshama a reward, that's not a big chiddush. Because the neshama is a spiritual being that's got a power to live forever. The Eibishter is spiritual, he lives forever. I mean, they get together. So the Eibishter looks after the spiritual beings in the world to come, or in the higher worlds. That the Eibishter looks after him in this world, or that is l'mayla me'ateva, that's nisim bli sof, which all the time that a Yiddu serves the Eibishter has what he needs in Gashmias, or that's nisim tchufim kol hazman. This is right to Rambam. And therefore he says that that's what the Torah promises at the end of Vayera. And he writes over there, the Torah says that Eibishter said, Im b'chochisai telechem, v'nosati gishmeichem, I'll give all your things, be'itom. And then there's a whole series of brachas that you have everything you possibly need. The Ramban says that that's not al pitera. Where do you find people who think that everything they do they have more than what they need? The Ramban says it sounds like something that's a little bit too good, to use the expression. He said that is in Yonim which are legamri l'mayla mi'ateva. And the Rambam and other people hold that they don't agree with that. They hold that the Eibishter promises these things only just in order to keep us out of having to waste time with the world, so that we'll have more time to do what we really should be doing. And the Rambam says, no, you have to do what you got to do anyway. You got to make your own effort to do what you do. And once you do, then the Eibishter pays you l'mayla mi'ateva, and he says, kol sachar b'gashmias al pitera neisu. This is what the Rambam. Remember, what happens is that if you elevate yourself beyond the whole Seder of Keil Shaddai, and you come to this type of tamimus of being involved in the Shem Havaya, after you've been through the little bit of self-examination, which takes a long time. For that you have to learn in Tom Chayim. You got to really get cracking on that part of it, and then you come to that examination, and then you live in such a way that even in Gashmiyas, everything is not really anymore Teva. It's all a Mayla Miyah Teva. It's right to Rambam. And he said the Eibishter just looks after the man in Gashmiyas, but that's the emes of Chiddush. Ruchni that the Eibishter should look after, that's not a Chiddush. It's moving. The Neshama is Ruchni, the Eibishter is Kaviyachol higher than Gashmi, so he looks after the Neshama. It's just a Dover Hamuva. Over that he looks after Gashmis, and you have everything you need, Beseda, Masuda. That is Nisim, Bilti Pesach, without interruption the whole time, and if we need it. And there's a famous Sichach in the Rebbe Melech Mashiach in Korpes, where the Rebbe brings down that if you have to do with your Torah mitzvahs in a way that you devote yourself unconditionally, and you devote yourself not only to Kabbalah but with Simcha, with Tulevav, with Maila mi Medida, and Maila mi Tam, and Maila mi Avad Yonim, even higher than Amunah, you just give yourself away completely to the Eibishter. He looks after you, Begashmis, and only he can do that. Like just pictures of the Rambam. Only the Eibishter can do that, and he looks after every inyan which is necessary, Begashmis, Bepashtis, and that's Atzmas Ein Seif, L'mayla Mikol, Medidas of Teva Lagam. And that's only now. That's what happens nowadays. It over the Alter Rebbe says in Tanya, it's Koftav Tevis, and we'll finish with a word from Tanya. But the Alter Rebbe says in Perik Lamed Vav and in Lamed Zayin, the Alter Rebbe says that the whole Tachlis, the why the Eibishter created the world, was to reach the stage of the world that's going to be the Mashiach with Tchil Samei. That's why Kikach Niro with Tchilosei. As I said to Alter Rebbe, being a Perik Lamed Vav, he said that's why the world was created from the very beginning. So there was a guy by me, I don't know who it was, one of the guys came to me in the office today. I don't remember who it was. Anyway, somebody came to me in the office. I mentioned that quote in Tanya, and I said, therefore, what are we waiting for? I mean, that's what the world was created for. All right. The Eibishter created it in order to get to Yemoisha Mashiach and Tchiyasar Hameishim. As they state taught in Tanya Klor, the Alter starts with a whole big announcement that the world was created only to reach Yemoisha Mashiach and Tchiyasar. That's Tachlis. He staush was Kol Elam. What are we waiting for? How many Ad Masai do we have to wait? And that's the pshat for it. So that's what so the Alter Rebbe writes over there that you're preparing the Moshe Mashiach and the Tchiyas HaMesim, you're preparing with your mitzvah. He said every mitzvah you do, you bring down a certain Gilui Elokus which is changing the whole flow of the world and making it a Mashiach world, and a world that's going to be ready to be revealed, the whole Seder of the Moshe Mashiach and Tchiyas HaMesim. You look at Perek Lamed Vav and Lamed Zayin and you'll see that every mitzvah you do, you change the nature of the world, and gradually you're building up a situation where boom, and the Rebbe said that that's all being completed. It's only just a second until it's all going to reoccur, this whole thing, this whole change in the ganze world. However, there's a little hagor over there in Perek Lamed Vav. Take a look and you'll see. There's a little in the middle of Perek Lamed Vav. The Alter Rebbe's got one of these little sort of footnotes that he wrote at the side, and he said that's not the emes reward for the mitzvah. He said the emes reward for the mitzvahs is only going to be in what he calls out there the Elef Hazayim. In the 7,000th year, that's when we're going to get the emes reward for the mitzvah. So I mean, we're not all that terribly far away from that. I mean, after time, we already had enough of this 6,000th year. So what does the Alter Rebbe want with that? Ma'u mitkaveh. So what he means is, the pshat over there in Tanya, if you look carefully, you'll see that what he means is that all that you're doing now with all the Torah mitzvahs and the reward that you get for the Torah mitzvahs, which is nisim according to the Rambam, that is only one stage. That is preparing the whole world and making the whole world adirly is barak in the way it's going to be. Yeah, but the Moshe Mashiach and Tchiyas HaMesim, you're doing that and you're making it, and that's what he said over there. That's our avodah b'meshech kol zman hagol. But everybody says that that's already been quite a bit of time, Alter Rebbe. He says kol meshech zman hagolos. So some of the Chassidim say, wait a minute, kol meshech zman hagolos, you know? How do they say enough is that? And that's not my lesson. I was once by the Rebbe. The Rebbe said, Ginuk is Ginuk. Exactly in Yiddish, what I just said in English. That enough is enough. It's really follows what he said, but we're preparing the whole reading, which is going to be, that's all coming through our way. You know, if say, well, somebody who really wants Sachar, and he's going to say, wait a minute, where's the evidence of Sachar? I mean, I've been preparing you. I've been making for you a world the way you wanted it last Tefillah. Dear Eloi is bara b'tachtonim. It's amazing. Look carefully and you'll see. That's what the Alter Rebbe said. They said all this unbelievable reward you're getting, inside this whole amazing brackets that I just put out for you here, from Rashi at the beginning of the passage, sof kol sof, you're really doing that for the Eibusha. That's your reward. And that's what it means in Pirkei Avos, Schar Mitzvah Mitzvah. The Schar of the Mitzvah is the Mitzvah. Pyrrhus is you're making the world the way the Mitzvah makes the world. And that's your Schar. That's a Gewaldi Schar. And if you need to give you Gashmis, you give you Gashmis Secher. Give you everything in it. Oh, that's all for him. He was and then when the Paul and the Rose said, where's our Schar? We'll be doing everything only for you. So therefore the Alter Rebbe says, oh yeah, don't be worried. In the Elef HaZayin, when, you know, it's going to already be the 7th, so then it's going to be long after the Moshe Mashiach and long after Tchiyas HaMesim. And you're going to say, oh, now we'll start giving the real Sachar. The real Sachar for mitzvahs, that's what we're going to start giving now. And that just nobody has any idea what that's going to be. Therefore the Alter Rebbe doesn't say what it is. He just says, Matan Schar Ha'amiti Yeh Ve'elef HaZayin. Look at the Tanya. What means to say that there's a waiting another type of Schar. Higher than this whole thing I just pointed out to you. Higher even than the Shem of Hayim. Higher than this whole thing Rashi pointed out. What could be better? And ain't Nachanami, there's nothing better. Ain't it Torah? Alright, he was just going to say, oh, yours. Now we go as far as the Elef HaZayin. Oh, that's what's going on. You in Sachar. Who knew? And then the Abe is going to say, oh, now I got over everything I wanted. I got my deal with training, I got a new world, I got some meters, I got everything that my plan wanted. What do we do now with our little Yidlach that they were the ones that they sweated the whole thing out? What do we do with them? Wie there. Whenever the altar is it's going to be in the Elef Hazai. And I mean, that's what we mean when we say the Yevshad Masai. And that's what the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach, he wants us to think that way. You know, wake up even from the dream of Golos. The Golos is a dream, it's a headache. It's just out. And you can see, look what's happening. So everybody knows that it's not going anywhere. Everybody sees it's just all boom, boom, boom. It's going down the drain. The Rebbe say, what? And that's what the Rebbe says, think differently. And immediately, all you need to do is think differently. Don't even think according to Kale, Shin, Dalit, Yud. Even that, think Ani Havaya. And then the whole world will be, and live from the always. Then you make the world the way, and the Eibush will look after you in the best possible way. And he'll give you Eretz Yisrael, that's part of his plan, not your plan. Part of his plan. And then it'll come the Elef Hazayin. Then we'll sit with the Eibush, and then we'll start talking about the Emes SHK. And then maybe Yidden will have the right, God forbid, without being cheeky, without being chas v'sholem, chutzpahdik, chas v'chonila, that the Yidden, they'll go, once you're in the Elef Hazayin, we've already moved the Elef Hazayin, they look at the Eibush and they say, no. You know, where's the Emes SHK? Oh, when Cain Yehi, and take it from Miyad, Mamish. So I see you're so worried about the Shachar and Elef Hazayin, you forgot where you are. Yeah.